you doing, my friend?
Doing very, very well. How are you?
Good. I mean, we have lots to talk about with respect to the Oilers clinching a playoff spot, but we should probably get the Tom Wilson, George Parros stuff out of the way. Thoughts on the lack of a suspension?
Yeah, I was surprised. I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little bit surprised that they hit him with a fine. Especially the thing with the NHL too, right, is like the max fine they can hit a guy with is $5,000. For Tom Wilson, he's probably got that in his genes most of the time. Yeah. So it just it seemed weird. It seemed like for a guy with his history that, at least a game, 2 games, what are we doing? I thought it was interesting. Even more interesting, though, was the Rangers' response via social media where they just blasted George Parros and the whole Department of Player Safety. It was I don't know if I've ever seen that before. It was very wrestling-like.
We've heard coaches make comments and then they get in trouble for it, but never an organization releasing a statement like that saying well, they weren't mincing he's words unfit either to continue in his current role. Yeah.
When would you ever see an NHL team generally say something like that? So I thought that was really interesting. I'm curious now to see what the NHL does with the Rangers for that statement, because there was a coach, I don't remember who his name off the top of my head. He was coaching San Jose and he got fined $100,000 for Raffi Torres comments he made in the playoffs years back. So transfer that today. What's going to happen with the Rangers? Are they going to get fined $100,000 for calling it kind of like it is? Or I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But I'm also looking forward to watching the Rangers and the Capitals tonight, because they play again tonight. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
So my thought about this when I watched it was, do you think it was because... I mean, I'm not going to try to get inside George Parros' head, but do you think it was because it was a scrum that he wasn't suspended? Because that was my thought, right? Maybe it was the fact that everyone was sort of... I mean, he was ragdolling that kid, but I mean...
I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine, really. I mean, like you said, it was a scrum. There was everybody was in the mix and everybody was going, but Tom Wilson just seemed to crank it up an extra. He cranked it up to 12 on that one. And I just got to say, I was surprised he didn't get suspended at all.
The helmet was off and he kept going and driving his head into the ice and
popped him a couple of times with the mitts on.
So it's interesting though, right? Because that's where hockey's at now. But if this happened in 1977, no one would have batted an eye. They would have been why'd the ref split it up?
It's kind of the league's fault. If we're being honest, I mean, they allow Tom Wilson's to do what they do because they've taken the enforcers out of the game.
Well, and they don't call rule books. They have very strange rules just in general. Yeah, it's 100% on the league. If they wanted to fix this kind of stuff, it could be done immediately. Yeah. It's the same as the reffing. It's the same as the reffing thing and the game management, blah, blah, blah. If their league really wanted to fix it, they would fix it.
Now let's move on to the Oilers. Let's have and we'll all attempt to do this, let's have a realistic conversation about the Oilers' chance in the playoffs. Can we do that?
Sure.
Okay. Where are you at?
I think that once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. So the realistic chances for me is, could I see them getting through a round? Absolutely. Could I see them getting through 2? Sure. Because if you look back to the bubble last summer, nobody ever would have expected the Dallas Stars to go to the Stanley Cup final, and yet there they were. So I think with a team like the Oilers, especially with Connor and Leon playing the way they are, Mike Smith's giving out Rolly vibes. If you're old enough to remember 2006, it's kind of all sliding in there.
Was that the second last time the Oilers made the playoffs?
Let's not talk about it.
15 years.
Let's not talk about it.
We were doing yesterday on Oilers Nation Radio, my podcast, we were doing a playoff memories kind of thing. And one of the guys is significantly younger than the rest of us. He's like, I was 3 in 2006 or something like that. It was just nonsense. But I think the Oilers can go. If Connor's playing the way he is, he is an absolute psycho on the ice right now. The fact that he is just dishing out multiple point games like it's nothing is incredible. Same with Leon. Same with Mike Smith. If they can kind of all put it together and play good hockey going into the playoffs, they can make a run. Because if you look at the Jets, they're doing the exact opposite. They've lost 7 in a row now heading into the playoffs, and that could be a worse spot for them. Sure, they're going to get in, but they're playing like crap to start.
Well, even the Habs, they're blowing a tire too. Here's my thought on it. This is my sort of justification for and again, I'm trying not to be overly optimistic because it is the playoffs, and like you said, anything can happen, and I don't want to be the homer here. But I think with the second round in particular, once you get out of playing somebody in your own division and then we move on to the second round, the playoffs are going to be interesting because none of these teams have played each other this year.
Yep.
And I think that benefits the Oilers because I think you have to play them a couple of times to figure out how to contain McDavid and Draisaitl. And if you don't have that, and if the Oilers can sort of take advantage of teams' unpreparedness of that scenario, and they can win the first couple, I think that benefits the Oil. And again, I don't want to be the homer, but I think we might be watching the Oil for a bit longer here this year.
I love the optimism, Block.
Okay,
I love it.
Good.
Yeah, he's Mr. Positive.
Yeah, I like this. I thought you were going to go the other way, to be honest.
Oh, really? Okay.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be very, very interesting once you get out of your own division in this year's playoffs. Because like you said, nobody has played each other. Frankly, even for fans, I don't know how many fans are even paying attention to what's going on in the rest of the league. I know I'm
been
mostly
watching
paying
a single
attention
thing.
to the North, you know?
Yeah.
So it's going to be anyone's guess how this goes once these teams actually start blending. And also, I'm interested to see what happens with the Canadian teams in general. Are they going back in the bubble in like a bubble city down in the States?
Yeah,
or something?
They'll go somewhere where they can have fans. Florida, somewhere like that.
Yeah, why not?
Tampa.
So that's going to be interesting. There's a lot of questions coming in this playoff run, and it's going to be super interesting to see how it shakes out. I'm excited about it.
Let's just get it going. Come on.
The whole not paying attention thing, I'm constantly surprised when I check the standings. I'm like, the Hurricanes are in first?
Yeah, no, they're killing it.
Yeah,
Golden Knights are in first again? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vegas is kind of annoying, aren't they? Like, they've never just not had fun in hockey.
Yeah. All right, well, listen, we're excited. I can't wait for the playoffs to get started.
Me too. It's been a fun year.
Yeah.
We're watching a player do things that haven't been done in this league in 25 years, and Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Everybody's just, the vibes are good. Everybody seems like they're enjoying it. So for Oilers fans that desperately deserve this kind of run, let's hope Locke's right and that they can make some noise in the playoffs.
Baggedmilk, Oilers Nation, thanks for your time, my friend.
Thank you very much.